Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of Vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in 0 sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Hello there, Duke fans. Welcome to episode number 542 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. It is Thursday, October 12th, 2023, and I know we are just ahead of the weekend. You just heard from us yesterday, but now we're back because we got some stuff we have to discuss. Before I get into what we have for you today.
Stuff. It is good stuff. It's really good.
I just teased the stuff, and I was going to tell you how good or great or excellent it is. But before we get to there, you heard him. That's Jason Evans. Jason Evans, say hi to the people.
Hi to the people.
And I am Donald One. I'm your host. We don't have Sam for you with us today, but we do have some exclusive, secret, whatever you want to call it. One of you out there, one of our listeners, was so gracious in sending us some secret practice video. I mean, we talk about the raw uncuts that we get during the summer. This is the real raw uncut. We got 50 minutes of video that, of course, Jason and I overanalyzed. And we are going to get into all that because that is what we do. We are really good at overanalyzing raw uncuts, from the rawest of uncuts to the leanest of cuts. But this one right here, 50 minutes of drills, scrimmaging, basketball, coaching, and also later on after the break, we're going to talk about the Duke Blue Planet episode that just dropped. I believe it was yesterday that it just dropped. Has some cool nuggets in there. We'll talk about that after the break. But Jason, first, let's get to this video. And first off, the person who sent us this video, we thank them so much for sending this to us because it's a nice in-depth look at how the team looks this far. And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we are 2 weeks into practice. So we're not going to really tell you that this team is, 1000% ready to go, that they're going to, go 40-0, win a national championship. We obviously hope that every single year, but we got the raw uncut. And before, Jason, I get into your thoughts, I want to start with this major thing that we need to take away. There's, the video that we saw, like I said, was 15 minutes long. It went from the first, drills that they were doing to some of the scrimmage they did, which was about 25 minutes, about halfway through the video. This video, there are very few skips. You see turnovers, you see misses, you see steals, you see bad shots, bad decisions. We see more minutes from Spencer Hubbard than we do Kyle Filipowski, who did not participate in the scrimmage portion. He did do the drills,
right?
He didn't do the scrimmage. You see competition. You hear, and one thing when you listen to some of these things, and Jason, I want to start with this part, the competition part, but leading into it, I want to start with this. This video is loud, and there's a reason for that. If you guys notice in some of these videos, there's a lot of chatter when guys are making plays. Even if you watch the Duke Blue Planet, you watch some of the raw uncut scrimmages, that videos that they put out.
Dude, wait, stop with the raw uncut. Everything we've gotten so far has been cut. What we have today is uncut.
I call them that because it's the running joke that all of these are raw uncut when they're really not. But this one, you hear a lot of chatter. The only time that Cameron is quiet in this video is when the coaches are talking or there is a free throw being shot by one of the players. Other than that, there is a lot of talking, guys coaching each other up, guys talking on the floor. And this is where good teams become elite. Every single team, when they talk about how they became an elite team that won championships, they said communication was key. And the great thing about this team is that they love to chatter on the floor. It makes it for a very loud situation, but also one that they can talk through. And Jason, when I kick it to you, I kick it to you with this. We are in Cameron when this video is filmed. The noise that they're hearing is just like what they're going to have to deal with when 9,314 people are also in there with them. So that chatter, being able to talk through and communicate through noise, is something that is very important to a lot of college basketball teams, but most especially to Duke basketball.
So I got a question for you, Donald. Who do you think talked the most? Who did you see talking the most of anybody on that Duke? I thought
Young.
Ryan Young. It's unquestioned.
Ryan Young.
And I love the fact, literally every single dead ball, Ryan Young calls the guys on his team over and has a couple of words to say to them. Like, look, the coaches come in and say things sometimes. There are all kinds of different. There are other guys who speak certainly at times, but Ryan Young, more than anyone else, clearly the leader out there for his team. And it's worth noting his team was the white team, and this is a big deal to me. Perhaps the biggest takeaway from this video is that we clearly get a white team and a blue team. The white team is made up of the guys who you expect to be starters. It is Proctor, Roach, Mitchell. Kyle Filipowski's in white. He sits out the whole time. I think they're still being a little careful with his, injury, with his hip recovery.
Keep in mind, Kyle Filipowski during the drills was full speed. There was no hitch in his giddy up or anything like that. He was full speed. But yes, this is more about, we don't need him to be banging with dudes on October, whatever this video was recorded. We need him in November through March and April.
Right. So again, the guys in white at the start, and they stayed in white the entire time, except for there are a couple minutes at the very end where they played a little bit with the blues at times. But the guys in white, Tyrese Proctor, Jeremy Roach, Mark Mitchell, Kyle Filipowski on the sidelines, Ryan Young, and Jared McCain. There's no question in my mind from watching this video that those 6 guys are the first 6 guys for Duke, and probably the only question for Jon Scheyer in terms of starters at the moment. Things could change, but at the moment, if Duke had to play a game tomorrow, I think the only question for Jon Scheyer would be, do you play Filipowski with Young in a 2 big lineup, or do you play Filipowski at the 5, Mitchell down to the 4, and play Jared McCain in a 3-guard lineup? But we've heard speculation. TJ Power, Caleb Foster. We've heard speculation about different guys and stuff. Clear to me from this video that Jared McCain is the guy, the newcomer, so to speak, who has elevated himself on par with the starters. And I bet that Jon Scheyer would even say, if you asked him, that he has 6 starters right now. And those guys looked really, really good. Now, it's worth noting that the first of the guys from the blue team that come out there and join the white team is Caleb Foster. And shortly after he does it, you get Sean Stewart, and then TJ Power is sort of the last guy from the blue team that comes over and plays with the white team. I looked pretty hard. I did not notice Jaden Shute or Christian Reeves or oh my God, I'm blanking on his name.
Jalen Blakes.
Jalen Blakes. Thank you. Wow. I can't believe I did that. I did not notice any of those 3 guys shift over to a white uniform, which sort of says to you, those guys are 10, 11, and 12, and they're not playing with the starters, at least, at all at the moment. Not to say those guys look bad or anything like that. They had moments. I thought especially Jaden Shute looked outstanding shooting the ball, but those guys never made it onto the white team. And I think that's a significant thing to take out of this. If we'll get to the players and some of the stuff we saw, but the immediate takeaway is 6 starters, so to speak, then Foster, then Stewart, and then TJ Power.
And Jason, I think I'll even go further in saying that from what I've been hearing online recently, and again, a lot of that, the waves have kind of changed. I remember, a couple weeks ago, I said that there was a lot of talk about TJ Power potentially being that 5th starter. In recent days, it has been Jared McCain that has emerged as that guy who has been deemed the 5th starter. And I think right now, if we, again, we're speculating, but I think if we start on that Dartmouth game, the 5 starters would be the 4 that you just mentioned, the 4 returnees, and Jared McCain instead of Ryan Young, with Ryan Young and or Caleb Foster being one of the first people off the bench. And I think it's just because you see Jared McCain on the floor, and I know we're going to get into a lot of these guys one by one, but Jared McCain, I thought, and this is just me, I thought he was the smoothest player I saw in this video. Everything that he did just feels and looks effortless. And, from him driving a lane and doing a smooth layup to shooting a three, even if the three didn't go down, people talk about, like, again, there were some missed shots in this video, and that's fine. There's some loose balls, steals, and all that, and turnovers. That's going to be okay in this, early stage of the season. But with Jared McCain, it felt like everything that he did was effortless, and it feels like everything that he does when he touches the ball, you almost feel like is guaranteed that something good is going to happen, whether it's him passing the ball to find someone or taking the shot and making it.
It even comes down to, like, the drills at the very beginning. Like you said, they're doing a bunch of drills, and they're specifically doing one drill. We see a lot of this of where they're passing the ball around the perimeter. They're doing some penetrating. There's no defense. Again, to be clear, no defense. But it's all designed to work for a corner three. Now, the corner three is the easiest three-pointer to make. This is a shot that we expect Duke to take a lot this season. And as I'm watching this video, I'm watching Mark Mitchell and Caleb Foster and Tyrese Proctor, and they're bricking it. I'm just going to be honest. They did not make, like, we're setting up corner threes for those guys. And, like, Caleb Foster had one of them, like, hit the backboard and the rim at the same time. Like, it's nowhere close. I was like, oh, God. And I was getting really worried about Duke's three-point shooting. And suddenly it got to be Jared McCain's turn. Swish. Like, pure as butter. The other guy, by the way, I saw who was nailing it was Jaden Schutt. And I mean, look, I'm the guy. I'm higher on Jaden Schutt than anyone in the Duke universe. I think I'm probably going to be wrong. From this video, we saw that he's not with the starters, but I thought McCain and Schutt were clearly the best shooters. Those are the two guys that, like, when the ball leaves their hands, you go, oh, that looks like that's going in. Everyone else, I was a little bit like, TJ Power looked okay. Like, TJ Power hit one or two, but McCain and Schutt are on a different level than everybody else.
Yeah, it's someone my best friend sent me this. There's, a bunch of boards are talking about, some of the shooting strokes of the guys on the team, and they were talking about Jared McCain, and one quote that I saw just was like, this is perfect. He swishes so much that people gasp when it hits the rim. Like, that's like,
yeah,
that's some shift. I was like, oh, so we have Jared Curry McCain. Great. Like, perfect. That sounds great to me. And it does feel like that. When he shoots the ball, you're just like, wow. And then if it hits rim, you're like, huh, whoa, he is human. Like, that's that sort of reaction. And again, in this video, there was times where he took the ball on the floor, which is not necessarily his known strong suit. And he looked great doing that too. So if he's able to continue on this trajectory, I'm not going to be surprised if we see him in that starting lineup on November 6th.
Yeah. The word I kept on using as I would watch him was floating. It felt like, I'm not talking about shooting floaters, which he did. He shot really nice floaters, but, like, when he's just dribbling the ball, again, everything seems smooth. It seems like he's walking on air, and the ball's just like, yeah. And I did happen to note at one point, TJ Power found himself shifted, switched onto Jared McCain. That did not work out very well for TJ Power. I mean, McCain is a clear, highlight in terms of what we saw on this video. By the way, it's worth noting that he and Tyrese Proctor, their hair is almost identical at this point. Like, their hairstyle. There were a couple times I was like, wait, who did that? Was that Proctor? Not to say they don't look exactly like they have different. Yeah, I know. But just in terms of the head, like, just looking at the head, I was from behind, from that angle we had, I was like, I'm sure which guy that was.
Because, Jason, remember last year, Tyrese had a similar haircut to Jeremy Roach, and and then they had 3 and 5, which are similar numbers when you're looking at them in a blur, because they have the middle part that kind of, curves around. So when you're looking around, you're just like, wait a minute, hold up, I need to know who's on the floor at each time. But this one, Jared McCain with that 0 at least helps quite a bit, and his hair flops, I feel like, a little more than Tyrese Proctor. But yeah, I think though, like, we'll talk about the other guards later, but I thought, again, Jared McCain was the one that I thought was the star of this video. And again, that we're talking about one practice, and we're overanalyzing here, but he looked really good.
Yeah. So by the way, the scrimmage we watched, I'm not sure if you call it a scrimmage or not, because it was make it, take it. Like I didn't even realize it was make it take.
I don't think it was a scrimmage so much as it in basketball practices, you always have 5-on-5. Like that's something that happens. So we won't call it necessarily a scrimmage because it wasn't like there was, I mean, they were doing time and they were keeping
track of the score. They had the score. I mean, I think
the white team was up 24-3 at one point, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait, it was 24-0 because it was make it take it. And the white team scored like 2 or 3 times in a row. And I thought, they're not going to scrimmage. And then the blue team finally got to stop and they raced the other direction. I went, they're trying to go on offense now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't work out very well for the blue team. It was 24-0 at one point in favor of the white team. And TJ Power hit a 3-pointer for the blue team. I think the blue team was about 0 for 5 shooting at that point. And TJ hit a 3. And I was like, yay, 24-3. Sort of stopped keeping track of the score at that point, for obvious reasons. The guy I want to talk about who surprised me, I guess, the most was Ryan Young. I want to be really clear about something so people understand this. For the white team, the team that had Jared McCain and Jeremy Roach and Tyrese Proctor. Donald, did you notice who was initiating the offense almost every time for them? It was Ryan Young.
It was Ryan Young in that high, not necessarily even the high post. He would come out almost to the top of the key in the 3-point line to start it.
Yeah, it was remarkable. Now, I don't know. Maybe this is something they were specifically working on in this practice or, I'm not sure. But man, it sure felt like Duke was running everything through Ryan Young. He makes great decisions. He is look, you don't come more savvy than a, 6th, 7th year senior, whatever he is. He's been out there forever. He got that ball outside the 3-point line. He looked for cutters. He looked for guys that could sort of run off him as a screen, do a handoff and run off a screen. He got a lot of really nice, effective passes into the post to Mark Mitchell. I think that what Duke was looking to do was essentially have the inside completely cleared out. By having Ryan Young out top, and by the way, this would also work very well, very, very well with Kyle Filipowski. With having these guys out top, there's literally no one in the lane. So suddenly the lane is wide open. Tyrese Proctor, Jared McCain, Jeremy Roach, you want to go to the basket? Ain't nobody else in there other than the guy you're guarding. Mark Mitchell, you want to go down there in the post and destroy poor TJ Power, who's trying to guard you? Go in and destroy, my friend. That's what was happening again and again and again. And it was just, a very, very effective thing. And it's because Ryan Young is A, a nice passer, and B, a really, really smart ball player. By the way, it's not to say that Ryan Young didn't get in the post occasionally and show us those old man moves. They are quite effective. He made poor Christian Reeves just look really bad at times. But I thought, again, we started with Ryan Young's leadership. I thought Ryan Young's play was significantly more significant than I expected it to be.
Let me start with this because you just mentioned the leadership, and I was actually going to start with that. His leadership on the floor has improved dramatically. And I don't say that lightly because I was very, very high on his floor leadership before. There wasn't a lot more that he could go, but it feels like he can. Every single play when he's on the floor, Jason, he was quarterbacking the offense. And yeah,
exactly.
Usually the quarterback is the point guard because he can see the floor and he can, figure out where everyone's supposed to be and kind of direct traffic. Ryan Young was doing that with his back to the basket at the 3-point line. That's how much he's in tune with this team and this offense. And again, as a leader, every single play, every single stoppage of play, he was talking to somebody about where they need to be on the floor or saying, hey, great pass or something like that to get them motivated for the next play. And with his skills, I think the great thing about that high post play that we saw them run over and over and over to success, first of all, the other team, the blue team, knows it's coming and it's still successful because of how he's able to command everybody on the floor, but also his ability to make those post moves and be just dangerous enough as a passer, which he's a great passer. He's just dangerous enough with the ball to basically be a triple threat, even with back to the basket. That's going to help everybody else on the floor. Because again, like you said, he found Mark Mitchell at times. Sometimes he found Jared McCain in the corner for a 3. And when Kyle Filipowski is on the floor, he's going to, again, make teams have to go, damn, do I leave Kyle Filipowski open and go double team this guy because he just lost his man? Or do I stay with Kyle and let Ryan Young just drive all the way to the basket and lay it in? A lot of times that happened last year when they both were on the floor. I expect to see that a lot this year, but even again, you can get more people involved. He can find people in the corner for threes. He can find people in the wings or find slashers that can come in for dunks. That was what I loved about him. And I think the last thing, Jason, about Ryan Young, every single time the ball came down, he almost commandeered your attention by how he started the offense, because you're like even the first time, kind of like, what is he doing? He's going pretty high. Oh, interesting. And you see him run the play. And then the next time you're like, okay, I see this play coming. Let me focus on someone else. And you still gravitated towards Ryan Young. That's how good he looked on the floor. And I think his leadership being even more improved than it already was is going to be a great asset for this team.
All right, so let's run through a few of the other players. I want to go through the guards first. Tyrese Proctor and Jeremy Roach, look, you know what you're going to get from them. They're smooth, they're competent. They hit a couple nice threes. They also missed some shots. I saw Tyrese Proctor pull out that step back three that I'm so eager to see him shoot more and more often. I don't want to say I was underwhelmed by Proctor and Roach. They didn't assert themselves quite as much as I thought they would, but I mean, that's perfectly fine. Again, we know what we're going to get from those guys. They're going to be one of the better backcourts in the country. Really, really solid players. And again, just exuded to me confidence and smooth. There's no other word for it than smooth. So I want to get to Caleb Foster, because he's the newcomer. He's a guy that we need to get to know a bit. And I thought he used his body. Again, as we mentioned, he's playing mostly on the blue team. And I thought Caleb Foster used his body to get into the lane really nicely. He struggled a little bit with his finishes. There's a lot of physicality when you get there in that lane. Mark Mitchell's coming over.
He's not going to be facing Mark Mitchell for 35 or 40 games this year. He's going to be on his team.
Right. But so Foster struggled a little bit with his finishes, but I thought his ability to get in there and get into a scoring kind of position was impressive. He was mostly doing that against Tyrese Proctor, who is a fine defender. So I thought that was really good by Caleb Foster. Caleb Foster's guy clearly plays downhill. I mean, like, really plays downhill. He had some very nice passes, I thought, to guys outside the lane. When he penetrated, he was looking for his teammates. His outside shot didn't look great. I mentioned that, in the drills at the start, I thought Caleb Foster's outside shot was a little iffy. I don't think you're going to get 35% 3-point shooting from Caleb Foster. This is going to sound crazy, but the comp that came into my head at least a little bit was Jeremy Roach. A guy who isn't going to wow you with his outside shooting, a guy who knows how to get into the lane and get shots there, a guy who does a decent job of facilitating. And then, frankly, I'll be honest, a guy who pounds the ball into the ground a little bit, a little bit of that ball stopper kind of mentality that Roach definitely has. I got a little bit of that from Caleb Foster. I'm going to go ahead and say, and look, I'm not dumping on the guy. I want to be really clear. He has a bright future in basketball, but I didn't see a lot from Caleb Foster that said to me, this is a kid who's NBA ready. This is a kid who the NBA is going to want in a year. A lot can change. I could be dead wrong about this. Caleb Foster could play his way into being a lottery pick. That's not an impossibility. But from what I noticed in this 50 minutes of uncut footage from this Duke practice, Caleb Foster just isn't at a level where he's going to be considering the NBA next year.
I will say that might be to his credit in a way that in this video, right, with this team that we've seen so far, I haven't seen a lot of deference to anyone. And again, Kyle Filipowski is not on the floor for these things, so you would feel that there's going to be some, at least when it comes to like on offense when he's on the floor. But Mark Mitchell, the guy's going to be playing in the league. Tyrese Proctor is a guy who's going to be playing in the league. Jared McCain is a guy that's probably going to be playing in the league. Caleb Foster could probably play in the league. Like, we have guys that are going to be playing in the NBA, and I didn't feel that there was one guy that everyone was like, yo, that's the NBA star. We need to get him the ball. Everyone was kind of doing their thing and making their plays. And I think in the case of Caleb Foster, you have a guy who, in football terms, right, when we talk about football, we say, hey, if you want to air it out, you need to establish the run, right? You don't have to run 100 yards. You need to make it where, if you're going to throw the ball 50 times, you need to at least let the defense go, hey, they can run the ball anytime and can still be dangerous. That's Caleb Foster, but in reverse. Caleb Foster is going to be that guy who he might come out early, take a couple threes just to establish the fact that he can make one. And that gives, make the defense honest. And then that opens up clear, lanes for him to drive, which I think is what he's best at and what he, showed about getting into the paint thus far. So yeah, I think there's a little bit ways to go for him, but I think he brings a dynamic to the floor that when Jeremy Roach is out of the game, or even Tyrese Proctor, Jared McCain is out of the game, he can still add and be productive, especially with all these other guys on the floor. He's not going to be that guy that's called on to score 10, 15 points a game. But if you get him on, especially if you're clearing a lane, he is a dangerous player that someone has to check him when he's on the floor. And again, that opens up the lane for everybody else.
Well, again, it was that downhill, just playing down, constantly playing downhill.
And that comes with time. That comes with practice and reps and people kind of going, hey, see what the defense gives you. And you don't have to, bull through everybody, because you're going to get tired in this league, especially in the ACC. Everyone wants you to do that. We've seen that time and time again.
All right, so let's get to the forwards and the bigs really quick. Mark Mitchell, there's not a lot to say. It's worth noting that both Mark Mitchell and TJ Power were doing drills with the guards, not with the other post players, so to speak. I don't think that's surprising to anyone, but look, these are two guys who conceivably you could call them power forwards. I think they'll both be called on to play some power forward this year. But again, playing more like a guard, like a wing, than a traditional power forward would. Although in modern basketball, I think other than centers, everyone plays on the wing nowadays. Even a lot of centers do. So again, I just want to note that about them. And Mark Mitchell, his three I thought still looked pretty flat. Maybe it looked a little more arced than last year, but his three looked pretty flat to me. The biggest thing about Mark Mitchell is that he's just a ridiculous defender. He was helping incredibly, getting in the way of plays. He was doing stuff that we've seen Mark Mitchell do all of last year, and it looks like he's even better at it this year. He's going to be in the running for National Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion. And he did have several very nice cuts to the basket and finishes in the lane. I don't know that I'm not even sure we're going to get 10 points per game out of Mark Mitchell. Donald, I mean, like when it comes down to it, when you look at the weapons of this team, I think it's entirely possible Mark Mitchell may only average 8-9 points per game, but he's going to contribute in so many other ways. You want to do Mitchell really quick? Do you want me to get to Power?
Yeah, let me do Mitchell because, first of all, I think to your last point, last year he averaged, I think it was like right at 10. It was like 9.6 points per game. And that was without a shot, right? He made some big 3-pointers, but he was clearly working on his shot. And while it, doesn't look the prettiest, it's one that he clearly works on every day. We talked about it last year, how he, always left practice making 100 threes, and he wanted to be confident enough that even if it doesn't look great, it's still going to go in at times. We're not expecting him to be a 40% 3-point shooter, but he's going to shoot those threes. He's going to get, dump offs in the lane, be able to slash. He's going to get his points. I think, to see him go to 10 points a game or a little bit higher than that, I don't think is out of the realm of possibility. I think what excites me the most about Mark Mitchell in this video and every other video is that man is a monster on defense. He is everywhere on defense. I don't understand how he is so quick at getting to places and beating.
Oh, it's amazing. His help is amazing.
There are guys who can blow past him and he will still beat him to the spot. That man is, Jason, like you said, the expectation I have is that I did the prediction that not only will he win ACC Defensive Player of the Year, but he's going to be in the final 3 for National Defensive Player of the Year and could very easily win it. And the best part is, just like last year, what you saw here is he can do it all without fouling. That is the biggest asset to his game, is that he can beat you to spots. He can beat you on defense. He can get to steals. He wins 50-50 balls. He blocks shots. The only thing that I want to see him maybe do more of is rebound. And he's still a pretty good rebounder. He's not the best one on the team. I think that's still Kyle Filipowski. But if he's taking some rebounds away from Kyle Filipowski, I think everyone would agree that is a great thing, because that means that Kyle Filipowski can go out and run. He's not having to, spend a lot of energy banging on the boards. And also, Mark Mitchell, we saw last year, could get a rebound, dump it off to somebody, and beat everybody down the floor for a dunk. That's what we want to see. It's going to start a lot of fast breaks if he is the one with the ball in his hands, because he can take it and go, or he can hand it off to someone and beat everybody down for a bucket on the other end. I can't wait to see Mark Mitchell against other players.
All right, let's get to TJ Power for a moment. As I mentioned earlier, when the score was 24-0, TJ Power stepped up and hit a three-pointer for the blue team to make the score 24-3. I'm not sure, he may have been the high scorer on the blue team. It's hard, I wasn't keeping track, and stats are difficult and such, but it did feel like he was one of the focal points of the offense for that second team, that he was getting the ball a lot. They were looking to him. They were trying to have him facilitate as well as take his shot. Like we said, he eventually played with the white team, but man, it was at the very, very end of that 5-on-5. Like literally, like they maybe had like 3 or 4 possessions left. It was late, and I think this speaks volumes for what his role is going to be on this team this year. I think that he may really struggle to get minutes in truly competitive games, but the fact that he was a guy they were looking for in that blue team a lot says to me that Duke has ambition for TJ Power down the road, if not this season, next season, to be a larger and larger part of what Duke is trying to accomplish, especially on offense. On defense, TJ had some tough situations. And look, part of his offense was tough because Mitchell was guarding him a lot of the time. But TJ I just noticed several different times where it felt like the guy that TJ was guarding really cooked him pretty bad. So that part of his game, I think, is going to take a little bit of time to get there. I do want to note that TJ at one point late in the scrimmage hit a step back 3 similar to the ones I've been talking about Tyrese Proctor taking. And I was like, ooh, I didn't know you had that in your bag, my friend. That shot, I've talked about it before. It's unguardable. James Harden is the master of that shot. It's unguardable. You got to be able to hit it. But the fact that I saw TJ taking it and hitting it, the fact that we see Tyrese Proctor take it more and more and hit it, those two guys, there's a possibility they're going to take and again, you can't stop it. If those guys can hit that shot 35+% of the time, forget about it. I mean, that's going to be a major, major weapon for Duke. You do TJ, and then let me talk about Sean Stewart.
I was going to say, I'm going to use that to segue into Sean Stewart. I think TJ Power, I thought I agree with you on a lot of it, but also I think, again, good things take time sometimes, right? Like he's going to be able to improve in a lot of ways. And again, playing against Mark Mitchell every day in practice is going to make him better offensively and also defensively, because Mark Mitchell can do a lot of things. I think what separates him from Sean Stewart is that Sean Stewart has more bounce to the ounce. Like he whatever
totally different players.
Well, no, what I mean is like TJ Power is not that TJ Power isn't athletic, but Sean Stewart's deficiencies can be made up with athleticism. And you see that sometimes he gets beat, but he can get a block because he can jump higher than everybody else in the gym. Like that sort of thing is always going to elevate you a little bit. And it's not that TJ Power can't improve in those areas. He can improve, his lateral quickness and all that stuff. I think that's what maybe in my mind has Sean Stewart a little bit higher than TJ Power, at least from this video that I saw. And I think, again, TJ Power is going to shoot. He's going to have some times where he's going to be more of a guard, like kind of a 3 and not necessarily a 5. And I think the question is he the guy that comes in if we need to find a replacement, whether it be foul trouble or whatever for Mark Mitchell, if we want to give Mark Mitchell a breather? Is TJ Power being not necessarily groomed, but kind of trained to be that like for like substitute if we need somebody at the 3?
Yeah, and you mentioned him. Let's move on to Sean Stewart. And I think, and again, we've cautioned this so many times, one scrimmage, one video, I thought Sean Stewart appeared to me to be clearly not just ahead of TJ Power in the rotation, but Sean Stewart went over to the white team much earlier than TJ Power did. And there were things I saw Sean Stewart doing for the white team and for the blue team for that matter, that translate into being a part of the rotation. And it was, look, it's his defense, his ability to block shots. There were a couple times I saw Sean Stewart switched onto Jeremy Roach, and I was like, oh, this could be bad. It was not. Sean Stewart switched on a Jeremy Roach, Tyrese Proctor, Jared McCain, playing it. This is a big guy guarding guards, and he had no trouble staying in front of them. Sean Stewart is absolutely ready to be a good help defender and a good switchable defender from day one, right now, off the, right out of the box. You unwrap him, and he is immediately ready to play defense at a high level. And that, to me, was the most impressive thing about him. He took a couple of those, Donald, you've mentioned these before, those quick release hooks not even like hook, they're like a quick push almost. And ball comes up out of his hand very quickly. He didn't hit them, but that looks like that's a shot that he sort of counts on a lot. I also saw him take a mid-range jumper. There was kind of a weird play toward the end. I want to say it was Caleb Foster. Someone got down into the post. There was a double team on him, and he dumped it off to Jon Scheyer, who was, 8-10 feet from the basket, and he took a little jump shot. I didn't think that Jon Scheyer really had that in his arsenal, and he nailed it and looked good doing it. So I was like, great, I like that. But I get the sense we're not going to see a lot of offense out of Jon Scheyer, especially not early on. But the defense and the notion of him and Mitchell playing together on defense, man, the two of those guys together, the switching will be special.
Yeah, raw talent on offense is a little bit slower to come by than raw talent on defense. Like if you're just a raw talent, like the offensive part, like, learning what to do. And again, some of these quirky shots that he's trying to do to kind of elevate his game, those are going to take time, but you can always use that rawness on defense. It translates to defense so much faster. And especially for him with his athleticism, his bounce, his ability to still kind of have that quickness, even if he gets beat. Like you said, if someone else gets beat on the wing, he can be the first one there to take a charge, or, in his case, he's going to elevate with you. And you better have a really nice elevator because his is going up to the top floor, like that sort of thing. So it's one of those things where I think his effort is going to get him on the floor, and the way he plays defense is going to be what gives him most of his minutes. Is not going to necessarily be his offense, but I do think there's going to be times where if there's 5 guys on the floor, he may be the 5th option, but he's going to be open, and he just needs to take those opportunities and make the most of it when he gets the ball.
So let's wrap it up with the final 3 guys that are the final 3, guys who have even any chance to really be in the rotation.
Spencer Hubbard.
Hubbard did play a lot.
Real quickly, he looked pretty decent. Like, I mean, he didn't make a lot of his shots, but he was like moving with the offense, and it's clear that he's a senior who's been involved in this offense for a long time, and he has that kind of for lack of a better word, like leadership quality. Like he has that ability to say, hey, we get down to me, garbage time, I can run the offense. And we like to shout out the guys who don't get the kudos all the time. And Spencer Hubbard is a guy who's been around for a long time. And the fact that he is now a scholarship player, I think we talked about that on the show, that he finally earned a scholarship, I think is really cool. And I think it's great that we see a lot of them in this video.
Yes, exactly. But the guys I was meaning to talk about are Jaden Schutt, Jalen Blakes, and Christian Reeves. Not to dump on any of them, but you could sort of tell why those guys are not really up there with the rest of the players who got to play with the white team. Jalen Blakes, I noticed, sort of struggles to finish at times. His defense, of course, is excellent. And if he gets out, off a steal or something like that, absolutely going to hit it. But I didn't see much from him. And he took the ball to the basket a couple times, and it didn't end very well. Jaden Schutt hit some of his shots, but he was passing well. He was involved in the offense, but it didn't stand out in the way that you would need him to sort of elevate him. And Christian Reeves, who's a guy we've seen do some good stuff. He had a couple nice block shots. I think he had a dunk maybe 1 or 2 times, but not a lot. And the notion that he's going to push Ryan Young or Jon Scheyer out of the way for big man minutes, I didn't see any evidence to say that that's going to happen this year. Look, it could happen for any of these guys, but just from observing 50 minutes of scrimmage or 50 minutes of practice footage, there's a reason why those guys never made it to play with the white team.
Yeah, and I think in the case of Jalen Blakes and Christian Reeves, it feels like whenever they're on the floor with everybody else, there's a lack of confidence in them. Like they don't feel like, hey, when I get this ball, I'm the greatest player on the floor and I'm going to just absolutely destroy whoever's in front of me. Like that's almost the mentality you have to have, especially a big man like Christian Reeves. When you're 7 foot 240, like you almost have to grab the ball. And when you get the ball, you're like, well, that's the end of this conversation because I'm going to yam it on this fella. And then he's going to understand that next time when I get the ball, get the hell out of the way. Like that's what the mentality you kind of have to be special. And you see it in some of these other guys. They have these moments where they get the ball and they go, I'm the greatest player on this floor and I have the basketball. Like game over. That's the mentality that some of these guys need to continue to build. Again, very early. You don't need to have it on October 12th as we're recording. You want to have it. You want to be able to exhibit it in the first Monday in April. But between now and then, there's a lot of time for them to improve that confidence. That's all really, I think, with those three. It's just a matter of when they get the ball, understand that, hey, they don't have to defer to anybody. They have the ball. Everyone on the floor gives them the ball because they trust him to make a good decision with the basketball.
Yeah, and I'm just, God, I want it so bad for Jaden Schutt. I really do. I hope it gets there for him. But this team is so loaded with guards. It's crazy.
He could come in garbage time or whatever, or come in the first 10 minutes of the game against Dartmouth and hit like 9 threes, and all of a sudden people are like, yo, is up. Like,
it could happen.
Anything can happen, right? And we have that confidence in him. I feel like he, like, at least on the floor, needs to exhibit that confidence in himself. That's all.
Well, he can shoot. Like you saw it in this video. Dude can shoot, no question about it. I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit of athleticism, quickness. There's just something missing at the moment. Anyway,
there's only 200 minutes.
Man. We got more to talk about.
Yeah, there's only 200 minutes you can divide amongst 13 or 14 guys. Some of these guys are going to be on the bench a little longer than they probably want. But again, to our listener that submitted this video, amazing work. We thank you so much for, again, trusting us with it. It's a lot of fun to watch these things, and it's incredible to be able to get a nice in-depth look at our team.
And we should note, by the way, this wasn't a spy. It wasn't like he snuck up there and got the video.
Right.
This was a special event for donors to the Duke Children's Hospital, a wonderful cause. And I'd say, we didn't get a great sense. It looked to me like about 100 people or so were there. There was a crowd.
And a lot of people are recording, like on their phones or anything like that. So
exactly. So probably there's stuff of this getting out in other places. But really wonderful that people, A, made this donation, B, that Duke then provided them with this wonderful benefit of getting to see the team early. And then the best part about it is he sent the video to us.
Yeah. So thanks, man. For that, we thank him. For that, yes. He is number one in our hearts. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we have more video to talk about, but this time is from our friends at Duke Blue Planet. Stick around. We'll talk about it. All right, we are back, and we are getting to another video that just came out. This one was a public video that everyone can see. It's on YouTube. It's on all the social media. It's the Duke Blue Planet series that Duke men's basketball does every single year. And this is the second episode of this particular season. And Jason actually alerted me to it because I usually say, yeah, I'll watch these a little bit later. I like to kind of watch them in batches just to kind of see the progression of how these players get to campus and are doing things. But this one was really cool. It had a lot of great nuggets in there, a lot of different things. And if you've seen the Duke Blue Planet videos, they don't spend like 15 minutes on one thing. They kind of think of it as like a digest video. They spend 2 or 3 minutes on a bunch of different things and they kind of move on. But there are some highlights in this that I thought were pretty cool. Jason, I want to start with you. Tell me some of the things that you saw in this video that were awesome.
So first of all, watching the team do the combine testing, all these speed and agility drills was a lot of fun. Jared McCain's speed and agility tied Jalen Blake's as the best in the lane agility test. I did not think of Jared McCain as a guy who would come in and show off his athleticism. His reputation was that of a super skilled player who can shoot, but showed some real athleticism in some of these agility drills. And the fact that he tied and Jalen Blake's, by the way, super quick guy, obviously a defensive stalwart. For Jared McCain to tie Jalen Blake's in that lane agility drill really says something to me. Jeremy Roach, by the way, won the 3/4 court sprint. We know Jeremy Roach is fast with the ball. Sean Stewart, the other thing I took away from these, look, we heard about Sean Stewart setting the standing vertical record. He did a max vertical, where you take a few steps and jump, where he reached 41.5 inches. Donald, his chin was above the rim. Again, Dude was looking down into the basket. It was like, wow, Sean Stewart gets up.
For Halloween, he could take his head off his body and dunk it. and and he'd be able to do it. And people would be like, is that a costume? No, that's him. He could do that. No, it's really cool to kind of look at those things. And we always get nuggets of the combine and sometimes like small videos, but this was like a nice in-depth look at some of the drills that they do. And again, how they're all encouraging each other. I think that's the most important thing, is that you hear a lot of like, yeah, let's go. Like you hear a lot of guys encouraging them to do this. So it's not like these guys are, because sometimes they do this during the year. They like retest themselves to see how they've improved. So this is not like where you're sandbagging it on the very first one so that you can show market improvement. These guys are giving it their all because they want to get better from here. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And by the way, they are aware that the combine measurements that get taken here will find their way into the hand of NBA scouts. None of these guys are sandbagging at all. So the other big thing that I saw that I took away from this video was there were several minutes where we got to see Jon Scheyer really coaching. And man, it was great stuff. It starts with him talking one-on-one to Jared McCain. And he's telling Jared McCain, hunt your shot. I want you shooting. He tells him.
I got the quote.
Go ahead.
The quote that he said was, he kind of said, are you ready to go? This is your first practice. And he's like, remember, don't pass up shots. If you pass up shots, I'm going to let you know about it. Like that's the confidence that he has in him.
Yeah. I love that. He was like, yeah, I'm going to get after you if you pass up a shot. It was great confidence building, also good advice. And he was telling McCain different ways to be successful on the floor, different ways to find ways to get his shot. We then saw a lot of Scheyer coaching the team. Just, again, this is the kind of insight into the way Scheyer runs a practice that I've never seen before, and I thought it was fascinating. And the thing I noticed the most, I heard him say this repeatedly toward the end of the practice. Scheyer had a phrase. He said, "Be at your best when your best is required," and he said that again and again. And I was like, that's a really interesting thing. Usually you would say, be at your best all the time. Like that's, I'm always striving for my best. That's the thing that most people think of. Think about that. Are you really able to be at your best all the time? I don't think one of us can do that. If I'm always at my best, it's not my best, it's my average.
Exactly. I was going to say that's how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I don't think Scheyer was saying slack off some of the time or anything like that. But he was saying to them, focus. There are specific moments when you need to be at your best because your best is required. I thought that was a really interesting message. And like I said, I heard him say it multiple times in this video.
The video that kind of gave us the clue that they had selected captains that we kind of talked about, like that episode a few episodes ago, we're like, yo, like 5 minutes ago, they just dropped this 2-minute video where he kind of said, oh, we have 3 captains. We kind of discussed that. That portion is in this episode. And I think it's great because that line comes out of that. And I think it's a fascinating thing because one, like you said, you get an in-depth look at how Jon Scheyer is coaching, but you also get to see an in-depth look at how the players respond to it. And I think one thing that I took from this video, from that portion, he mentioned the 3 captains. He's like, the 3 captains are here, and I need you guys to lead. I need this to be your team, and I need you players to understand that we can't coach you all the time. This has got to be your team. Couple that with the video we just talked about for the last 40 minutes, right? We see a lot of that response in that video. So I think that's the cool thing, is you get to piece together that, hey, he said this one thing about being at your best when the best is required, to make this your team and to lead. And these guys took that to heart. Anything where he was, coaching guys during the plays, during the drills, you could see them respond on the next one. He even had the next play chat with Sean Stewart. He's like, hey, I know you're frustrated, but don't worry about it. This is about what you can do in the next play. And he just kind of goes, okay. And you could see Sean Stewart immediately, he had his hand, his jersey in his head and kind of wiping off his face. You see him immediately drop his hands down. He's like, okay, the next one's mine. And you can see the immediate response. I think that's the fascinating part of this. And I'm glad that Duke men's basketball has been doing more of these. And even with the Brotherhood podcast, when you couple that, they also talk about the Brotherhood podcast in this episode, but those sort of things are what give us, the fans, an in-depth look at how this team can shape themselves to be the greatest team in the country. I think that's great, and I'm glad they're doing it.
Look, we've spent a long time talking about video. The final thing I'll take away, the final thing to note from all of this stuff is Kyle Filipowski has a lousy shoe game.
No, that's not what you take away. This is the note that I took about this. So first of all,
there's an extensive conversation about Kyle Filipowski's shoes.
They were
talking
about
behind the scenes. Christian Reeves. They're about Kyle Filipowski's shoes and Christian Reeves' shoes. Go ahead, take it.
Yeah,
You're the fashion.
So go back.
Go
ahead. We're going back to it's the very beginning of the video. They're doing the behind the scenes look at some of the hype videos that they record, the ones that are going to play in Cameron before the games and all of that. And it's going to look really cool. Whatever coming out of it, it involves the Duke Chapel, it involves smoke, it involves these guys like looking mean and tough. This is going to be great. But a conversation happens between Kyle Filipowski, Christian Reeves, and Mark Mitchell over shoe game. And what started it was this. Kyle Filipowski is a shoe stealer, according to Christian Reeves and Mark Mitchell. Apparently he took Christian Reeves' shoes, and Christian Reeves, that led to the conversation of, yeah, he stole my shoes, because he talks about how he has a good shoe game, but he really doesn't. And even Christian Reeves, like, I brought my backup pair. We're still fresh. Like, this is great. So I think it's funny. We're going to have to, and it kind of brings up a point that we didn't really talk about in this show. Duke is one of 6 schools, it's 8 schools, I want to say, that are part of this program with the Mambasita Foundation. So they're going to be wearing Kobe Bryant exclusive shoes this year. Obviously, guys are going to be wearing shoes, all different kinds of Nike shoes, but the Kobe Bryant shoes that are coming out, they're getting exclusive pairs for all these guys to wear. And that probably is going to immediately elevate Kyle Filipowski's shoe game if he starts wearing Kobe's around campus. But yeah, as of right now, he's resigned himself to taking Christian Reeves' shoes, which I think is pretty funny.
It's great stuff. Look, this is a lot of fun. And I like that these videos let us see both the guys at work and at play. It's hand in hand with the Brotherhood podcast that Ryan Young does, where we get to so much insight into the team. It's the kind of stuff that for years you just wouldn't find out anything about these players, and now we really get to see them and enjoy them. It's really cool.
Yeah, and as you guys know, we had Ryan Young on the episode before where we talked extensively about the Brotherhood podcast. I want to see how it evolves during the season. Is it going to be more like recaps about how these guys are feeling, or is it still going to be the interviews? I think it's a fascinating question that we obviously will learn about in a few weeks. But again, right now we have the Duke Blue Planet videos. Go check it out. It's on YouTube and all your social medias. But for now, we will end this episode of the Duke Basketball Roundup. He is Jason. I am Donald. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, enjoy your weekend. Go Duke football. And we will check you out very, very soon. But now it's time for the Duke band to play us out and take us home.